Everything around us is dynamic. This rule that governs our world is observed in nature just as well as it is observed in the achievements obtained by mankind. Just like the slight tilting of Earth's rotational axis can bring about climate change, so too does man's advances in technology affect his understanding of his surroundings. It's impossible to predict where our achievements may lead us or how it will change the world around us. But to paraphrase a contention put forward by Barnett in his article, Learning for an Unknown Future, this world is filled with complexities that only become more complex as additional man-made discoveries are added to the cauldron of worldly knowledge. This contention sheds greater light on the world we and our students should be preparing for. This parallels the effects we see of digital communication on educational practice and how it has transformed the way we view literacy and the various ways meaning is made. This short video will demonstrate how much technology has changed in the past few decades. Our language is changing. Symbols that may have meant nothing a few decades back have new connotations associated with them today. The abbreviation of words is not the dumbing down of language, but the continuous evolving nature of it that involves a complex interaction between social and cultural circumstances. With that being said, no doubt our social landscape is changing. Our students do not know of a world absent of the types of technologies that exist today. This in turn has changed their literacy practices, and we educators must utilize these practices in order to engage students and make their learning more meaningful with purpose by bridging the gap between school and home literacy practices. A quote put forward by David Bloom acknowledges the fallacy that students nowadays don't read or write anymore. However, students continue to do so, just not in the traditional sense. No longer do students gain knowledge by opening a book and reading its content, comprehending its meaning and imparting its wisdom on paper by pen. They don't turn pages of a book, but rather scroll down screens. Meaning is made in ways that are increasingly multimodal, integrating numerous meaning-making systems that comprise of audio, visual, spatial, gestural, and linguistic designs. The proliferation of digital technology, and more specifically the way people communicate, has required active participants of the educational industry to re-evaluate the way we understand texts and what it means to be literate in the 21st century. Anstey and Bull define an individual who is multiliterate as someone who is flexible and strategic and can use literacy and its practices with a range of texts and technologies in socially responsible ways in a socially, culturally, and linguistically diverse world, and to fully participate in life as an active and informed citizen. The socio-cultural aspect to this definition is especially salient in the context of today's world, where disparities between groups are further widening and the fragmentation of society is becoming more prominent. This socially imposed categorization of individuals into different circumstances will require teachers to be equipped with the appropriate literacy pedagogies to cater for their students' varying learning needs. Web 2.0 type applications have augmented the powers of the passive recipient and have transformed them into contributors to the World Wide Web. Students now need to become literate in all these mediums and interpreting these texts as critical and creative users, through the help of teachers exploiting these valuable resources to help extend the walls of their classrooms to create global citizens who know the ethics and responsibilities of engaging online in a safe manner. Not only this, but they will also become exposed to various opinions most likely opposed to each other and will require support to discern between each and form their own judgments. The cultivation of such students requires change. Change in schools that for the most part are anchored in philosophies from the industrial era through to the greater part of the 20th century. Theories such as behaviorism, posited by the likes of Skinner, viewed the novice student as empty vessels that teachers filled knowledge with. Schools such as these sift through an assortment of students with varied interests and goals, and pump out homogeneous citizens tailored for the work destined for them. Much has changed since then. As a result of globalism and the abundance of academic research, it's critical that schools focus on the subjectivities that accompany their students. The need for a pedagogy that includes all types of homeworlds and appreciates the different cultures and languages present in their classroom is required. Schools can begin to account for these differences and implement pedagogies that help envision the society we want to create. Cultivate a microcosm of what we all want the wider society to become, where people engage in public discourse from various backgrounds and work in environments where the existence of critiquing, creativity, and commitment flourishes. Literacy pedagogies encourage constructive skepticism, the use of multimodal text motivating students, providing familiarity for the students in the classroom, enables a student to master a topic from various perspectives, and overall understand their role in society and how knowledge relates to the context of where they live and how they, in the possible future, may transform that knowledge. Unfortunately, classroom practice often lags behind current academic research as a result of educational policies. A clear example of this is restricting assessment to one type of mode, mostly written. How do we cater to students from backgrounds with strong oral traditions, such as Indigenous Australians? Catering for our diverse students is a must according to the Disability Standards Act of 2005. Although policies often take time to catch up with academic research, it doesn't mean we can't implement these strategies to produce successful, multi-literate citizens of the 21st century. In order for us to begin to enact change within the classroom, a guideline must exist so that we are all on the same page. The New London Group, comprised of experts from around the world, came up with a framework known as the components of multiliteracies. These components are situated practice, that situates student learning in a context that is familiar to them and requires their prior knowledge. Overt instruction, the teaching instructions that help the learner gain the subject's information in order to help guide their practice. Critical framing, relate what students know in relation to historical, social, cultural, political, and ideological relations of particular systems of knowledge. Transformed practice, where theory becomes reflective practice and students can demonstrate what they know with their own values and goals shaping this practice. I hope you've enjoyed this short presentation on multiliteracies and what it entails and how our school can adapt to the change witnessed in our society. Thank you.